AM 590, KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. It's time for the Metro's only racing talk show. The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Buddy Ray.
Welcome to The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. This is Turn 1, where we break down the weekend that was, and that was the Quicken Loans 400 at Michigan International Raceway. Joining us on the phone now, and something we're going to try out, a guy who is at the track each and every week and does a fantastic job for the Motor Racing Network. Jeff Striegel joining us. Jeff, thanks so much for taking your time.
You got it, Dan. It's good to be with you guys out there. I know we've got a lot of great race fans out there that follow NASCAR from coast to coast, so it's a privilege to be a part of what you guys are doing.
Well, we greatly appreciate what you guys do over there at MRN. You do a top-notch job, and we have been vocally against some of the TV broadcasts because it's a little frustrating when they decide to cut to commercial and there's a lead change. And I love it that I've listened to MRN, and I have not caught that. I listen religiously to that, so thank you for that much at least.
You got it. You know what? It's we do actually try to follow if we're going to get a lead change, and if we can hold a commercial break until the if it happens in the break, there's usually not much we can do about it. But if there's something that's starting to shape up and it looks like we've got a battle for the lead or we're getting ready to make a pass, we usually try to hold our commercials until that takes place. So, we're doing the best we can. We've got some pretty avid race fans out there that listen to us, and you know what? They want to hear all of the action, so we try to give it to them.
Well, let's talk about the action we saw at Michigan. I was a little bit worried after seeing the nationwide race that the Cup race might be a little bit of follow the leader, but that was nothing of the case. We saw some fantastic racing, some fantastic speeds. Kind of break down a little bit from the race you saw up there in the MRN booth.
Well, I think you're right on. Based on what we saw Saturday, Dan, I thought we were going to see the same thing. I was pretty concerned about the racetrack after what we, witnessed last year. I mean, yeah, it's fast. It's the fastest track that NASCAR has. But fast doesn't typically produce very good racing, and a one-groove racetrack never produces good racing, and now we had both of them in the 2-mile oval at Michigan. So I didn't have real high expectations of seeing a very good race, but it had a lot of drama. It had a lot of turns and twists, and it seemed like one of those deals where if you got out front, you just had to wonder what was going to happen to you. Casey Kane, I know we'll talk about that in a minute, but you're right. The groove kind of widened out. We got, maybe 2 grooves there, and we were able to get a couple of side-by-side races going on throughout the afternoon. So all in all, much better than what I thought we were going to get.
We saw some cars struggle, and I want to talk about Denny Hamlin in the 11, Marcus Ambrose, who seems to have a bit of a surging year on his hands, and then Ryan Newman all have rough days. But did you get to talk to any of those drivers post-race about what happened with their cars, especially Hamlin, who this was not the race he needed?
No, it's not the race he needed. He's now down to, 11 races left. I think he's 85 points out of 20th. That's 2 full races of points that he now sits outside of the top 20 if he has any chance or any hope at all of trying to make the chase for the championship. And that's a tall order. For a while there, I thought, okay, he can do it. I mean, if anybody can do it, Denny can. He's with Joe Gibbs. He's got a fast race car. He's going to come back, and he's going to be, just driven. But, man, oh, man, back-to-back tough finishes has really put him in a position now where he's going to be lucky now. I don't think if I was in Vegas, I don't think I'd be betting on the fact that he's going to make it. But probably the worst race car that he has had in 4 years, maybe more. I don't remember a Joe Gibbs car acting or reacting the way that it did at Michigan. They never did get a handle on that car. Usually you can work, and then finally at the very end you can come back and go, we started to get it right towards the end of the race. They never got it right. That was just a ill-handling Toyota, and it cost him with another outside the top 30 finish.
Something like that, when they've got such a bad car, when he first gets the green flag, starts the race in 11th, do they pretty much just say, okay, this is just going to be a rough day because our chassis is so far off, we can't adjust the car enough?
I'm going to say very, adamantly, no, they're never going to say that. You got 400 miles there. You got 500 miles at some tracks. You've got, however many laps they're going to run this weekend, or here in a few minutes, based on that. When you drop the green flag, you've got one focus of attention, and that is to continually work on that race car to try to figure out what's wrong and make it better. I know at one point they had the hood up on that FedEx Toyota, and they were changing the front shocks on the car. You see that once or twice a year, and it's typically because the driver feels like they've broken one. I think they changed the shocks on the front end of Denny's car because they thought they could possibly have a broken one just because the car was so bad. So, bottom line is, Dan, as long as, until that checkered flag flies, if it's a matter of putting rounds of wedge in, changing tire pressure, changing shocks, moving the track bar, everything short of replacing the driver, they're going to do everything they can to try to get every spot they possibly can on that racetrack.
Let's talk about the good. Let me just sum it up like this. Hendrick Motorsports. Every one of their cars, and I even think, up until Jeff Gordon had his issue, that he had a car that could have drove through the field. It's got to be frustrating for those guys to have such good cars, but yet none of them finished inside the top 25.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. Do your homework between now and next week, and let's come back and try to figure out the last time 4 Hendrick Chevrolets had the kind of finishes and results that they did. And when I say homework, I mean, we'd have to go back a long way. Can anybody remember Casey Kane leading the race, cut down a tire, destroy the car, you're out? Dale Earnhardt Jr. leading the race, dominant car, blow the engine, you're done. Jimmy Johnson charging through the field in what arguably was, in my opinion, one of Jimmy's best drives. It's one thing to start out front like he did, Pocono, and just lead 80% of the laps. But he didn't have that luxury at Michigan. He was up and down like a yo-yo and driving the wheels off that car, gets up to second place, race over, you're done. And obviously Jeff Gordon, who only got 5 laps in before he got tangled up with Bobby Labonte. So, I mean, Dan, I don't remember the last time that we could ever talk about all 4.
I seem to remember a time, and I can't quote time or track, but I think 3 of them had a bad finish, but one of them won the race, so it kind of balanced it out a little bit. But you're absolutely right. All 4 of them having a bad day like this, I never do remember it.
Well, you know what? For Hendrick fans, they don't need to despair long because they are good. They're very good. They will rebound. They will rally back, and whether it happens at Sonoma, here this afternoon, or whether it happens in a week or two, you're going to see those 4 Hendrick Chevrolets all in the top 10 again. So a bad day at Michigan, they'll write it off and move on. And
that's got to be the scariest thing about the 48 team is that when they have a bad weekend, they put their head down twice as far and put their nose into the wind and get it done the next weekend. And you saw it at Pocono. That was a retaliation for Dover.
Jeff, Dan and I have been talking about a lot of the Toyota engines blown up this year, and you see a lot of blown engines. With that being said, have you heard down in the garages or scuttlebutt about if the teams are really, really super concerned about, proportionally, there's a lot more Toyota versus Ford or Chevy motors letting loose this year?
Buddy, you don't have to go very far to find that topic of conversation. All you've got to do is wander around the Toyota camp. I mean, they're very concerned about it. We talk a lot about Matt Kenseth. We talk a lot about Kyle Busch because, Kyle's outspoken, and when Matt has had his engine problems, he's been up front, leading the race. What we don't typically talk about is Martin Truex Jr. I think Martin's lost 2 motors, and they came at places. One comes to mind, which is Richmond. I believe he was top 3, and he lost an engine there. And I'll tell you, that guy's had some miserable luck. I mean, that guy hasn't won since 2007. But it's amazing to me how well he runs for only having had 1 win, and that win was, umpteen hundred races ago. But yes, buddy, to your point, everybody's aware of it. I don't even think the Ford and Chevy people want to see it, but obviously they're more than happy to drive by a broken-down Toyota. especially when it happens to be one that's running at the front of the field and leading a race, and you're sitting there right behind him, and all of a sudden that motor lets go. There's a lot of work to be done on those Toyota motors. It started a couple of weeks ago at Pocono when they actually detuned them and tried to take away a couple hundred RPM and just try to make those motors last. We'll see what it does. It didn't seem to affect their performance at Pocono or Michigan. But you know what? We're only 2 races into this little bit of experiment. But again, they got a lot of work to do for sure.
Let's talk about the battle for the win. It looked like it was gearing up to be a good one, but unfortunately Jimmy lost a tire. Speculate for me, if you will. Had that tire stuck together, do you think Jimmy would have caught him and passed him?
No. For a while there with, I don't know, I think there was 20 laps to go. And, I was looking at Jimmy's lap times, I was looking at Greg's lap times, and I was looking at the distance apart, and it looked like he was going to catch him with 3 to go. And I even think I made the comment on the air that, if all holds true, by the time we get to 5 to go, maybe 2 to go, we're going to have a battle for the race lead. As you point out, obviously that went up in smoke. But, he closed down, got to within about 1.1 seconds back, and I think that was when Greg, probably heard from a spotter that said, you know what, you're going to have to pick it up just a little bit. And, Greg was probably saving a little. So they both started running about the same lap times. I think, honestly, unless Jimmy was saving something for the final 10 laps, I just don't think he was going to get there. So hard to say. But, if I have to speculate, I think the guy that won was probably the guy that was going to win regardless of what happened to Jimmy.
Were you surprised NASCAR didn't throw the caution when Jimmy hit the wall, blowing the tires?
Yeah. I'm a pretty honest guy. You asked me a question, I'll give you an answer.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, I was. I also thought that NASCAR was going to throw a caution. I don't remember who it was. Somebody else hit the wall. I think coming off 2. And then rode the wall all the way down the back straightaway up in turn number 3, and I thought they were going to try to do a short track yellow where they just hung it on the outside of the racetrack until NASCAR was forced to throw a caution, and NASCAR didn't. So there was 2 times in that race where we had cars hit the wall, pretty significantly, and NASCAR left the green flag out. Obviously, Greg was happy with that decision, or we would have had a shootout right there at the end of the race. So, yeah, I was a little surprised that we didn't see the caution flag set something up that, let's put it this way. NASCAR has been criticized in the past for these fictitious yellow flags in order to try to create something. They had the opportunity to create something there when Jimmy hit the wall and did not. So, I guess you could say credit to NASCAR for doing what they did.
I was really surprised they didn't throw the caution, but I was also very happy. We have a pick'ems contest going, and Biffle was my pick. So when the white flag waved, I was dancing in the living room. I was so happy.
Well, he's a guy that's always going to be tough to beat there. He's got the best stats of anybody there, although you can throw stat sheets away, especially when you repave the racetrack. But there is something about Michigan, Ford, and in particularly Roush Fenway cars, because they just, look at what kind of miserable season Ford has had so far this year, and then look how they perform when they get to Michigan. It leaves me scratching my head trying to figure out, why can you be so good there and just not as good anywhere else? And I left there scratching my head again, trying to figure it out, and I still don't have a good answer for you.
Well, let's wrap it up. Turn 1, we're going to head over to Turn 2, and we're going to talk about the point standings. But, Jeff, you'll join us back in Turn 4 to preview Sonoma. Thanks so much. We appreciate your time so far, and we'll talk to you in just a little bit.
All right, I'll be right here. Looking forward to it, guys. Have a good morning, and I'll talk to you here in a few.
Thank you so much. That's going to do it for Turn 1. We'll be right back in Turn 2 to talk about the point standings, Keselowski's comments, also Daytona International Speedway. Going to spend a couple of dollars to upgrade their entrance. We'll talk about it coming up in Turn 2.
In 1999, Wade Cross decided he was tired of overpaying for shocks, so he created FX Shocks. Now FX suspension customers reach across the United States with countless wins and championships, including national champion in 3 major IMCA classes, plus Super Nationals champions in all 4 of the Saturday night's main events. Get your FX Shocks today. One-on-one consultation is waiting for you at 308 888-383-9609.
This is Andrew from Kaziski Auto Parts. Kaziski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kaziski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kaziski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kaziski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
We're working the high line into turn 2 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K, and let's talk about some of the things that happened in the week that was. What was that? What?
Well, I was just going to tell you, I just can't believe how cool it is to have Jeff Striegel on the front stretch.
You know, there's that. And there's, you want to be like, you've been there before, you try to act a consummate professional, but that's freaking Jeff Striegel. The guy that I'll say it, I slightly idolize him because the guy's got the job I want.
He's your Jesse Sopping.
Exactly. You couldn't have hit it on the head.
And honestly, how quiet was I in that entire turn? I was just sitting there looking at my microphone.
You were sick.
Yeah,
I was really worried about you.
I am very rarely speechless, and I'm sitting there the whole time just listening. This guy has got so much knowledge. I mean, the stuff that he can bring to the front stretch, wow, what an honor.
Let's talk about the point standings after Michigan. This could actually gear up to be a bit of a points race. We kind of joked about it last weekend, leaving Pocono. Jimmy Johnson just absolutely walking away with it. Had a 51-point lead over Carl Edwards, but because of the issues that Jimmy had, now the points lead is back to 31 points. Clint Boyer comes up 3 positions up into third place. Kevin Harvick is in 4th. Matt Kenseth 5th. Kyle Busch 6th. Dale Earnhardt Jr. falls 3 positions, and he is now in 7th. So that blown engine really hurts. And Greg Biffle has a big day, comes up 2 positions into 8th. He's now got the ever-important bonus win, and he's in the top 10.
So how much pressure do you think that took off Biffle? I mean, is he sitting there going...
I think it... Oh, yeah. That takes a lot of pressure off because all of a sudden you don't have to be in the top 10. You could be in the top 20.
That's why I always said, these guys want to go for the win each and every week. They want to consistently be in the top 5. But at some point, you're going to go to tracks that struggle. But if you could just stay in the top 10 in points and maybe get one win, it kind of takes the pressure off of you. But then once the chase hits, oh boy, it's game on.
Well, and let's not kid ourselves. There's still pressure. But we're talking 75 pounds rather than 100 pounds.
Right.
So it takes a little bit of pressure off. Brad Keselowski sits 9th. Tony Stewart, another good day for Tony Stewart, and that 14 team sits in 10th. Your bubble positions right now, or your bonus positions, Paul Menard in 11th, Casey Kane in 12th. Kane dropped 4 positions, but no one had as bad a day as Jeff Gordon and Kurt Busch when it comes to the points. Both of those dropped 5 positions.
I want to go back to Tony Stewart. Last week we were talking, he runs top 5 at Michigan. Mm-hmm. Are we seeing a definitive turnaround, or is he on the road to that definitive turnaround? What's your thoughts on that?
He finished 5th, and I'm always hesitant to call it a turnaround because you can have one bad race.
But this looks like a turnaround.
He's going to Sonoma, which he's good at the road courses. Yep. I think he's going to get another top 10 today. We then head to Daytona. I'm not going to count Daytona because that's always the wild card.
See, I count it.
Well, but you can have the best car and get shuffled to the back and wrecked out.
I count it because it's a race. I count it because it's a race. You don't want to count that, but if he runs top 5 at Daytona, but then he runs maybe a 7th, 8th at the race after, you still got to count Daytona because it's going towards the standings. I don't count it because it's such a crapshoot for a top 10 or a sub 30. Fair enough, but I consider this a turnaround for Tony Stewart. I tell you what, though. Just like Jeff Striegel had mentioned, look at old Martin Truex Jr.
Yep, up in
one win since 07. And like he said, Jeff couldn't say it better. how well does this guy run for only having that one win since 2007? And here he is sitting third. I mean, great to see Martin Truex Jr. up in there.
Exactly. And I got to give an attaboy there to Austin Dillon. The rookie finishing 11th, started 7th. He not only had a good starting position, but he maintained it for a good majority of the day. Had an absolutely, I wouldn't say the best car, but a pretty good car. And, oh, by the way, Danica Patrick finished in 13th.
Yeah, Danica was real surprising. But you go back to, well, look at Tony Stewart sitting 5th. Danica Patrick sitting 13th. But prior to these last 4 or 5 races, Danica, we were all talking. Danica had been looking really good compared to Newman and Stewart, but Stewart and Newman were still. Now, hold on. Now, Stewart and Newman were still back there 20, 25th, and you saw Danica running 15th. Now, all of a sudden, you look there, you got Stewart running 5th. You got Danica sitting there running 13th. Newman had an issue, didn't he?
His issue was just a bad car.
Okay, just a bad car, but he's still finishing 18th.
Yeah.
But 5 weeks ago, you wouldn't have seen these drivers running this high up in the race.
Well, and let me correct you, though. We never said that Danica was running good. We were saying that Ryan and Tony were running as bad as Danica. She was running.
I think
because she wasn't finishing 15th.
See, the way
she was finishing mid-20s, and so were they. So there are several
races where she actually had finished a little bit better than them, and so I thought.
Yeah, but the way
I took our conversation was that she was actually running better than what we expected at this time, and her teammates were actually dropping back a little bit.
She has her little spurts. Martinsville, she did very well.
She's good on the small tracks.
Yeah, and she's good at the super speedways as long as she's got the same problem Jimmy Johnson does. As long as she can keep it clean and keep it on all 4 wheels and not into the wall, she has a good finish. But her and Jimmy both have that same issue. Let's talk about our defending points champion. How's about that? He said something again. And he's got a couple of people that you don't want to rile.
You know what?
Riled. Well, I mean, I don't get this. The Village idiot would understand. You start poking Hendrick Motorsports, they're going to start singling you out to make sure they beat you. I am almost set in stone. This guy will not be in the chase. He's not going to be in the chase. And Hendrick Motorsports and now Joe Gibbs Racing are going to make sure of it. So Brad's doing an interview. He talks about Gibbs and Hendrick stealing Penske employees. What keeps it from, the little things that you can do, Keselowski says, of Ford-backed teams opening up lines of communication in an effort to improve performance on the track. What keeps it from going too far is the fact that Hendrick and Gibbs have this nasty little habit of going to other teams and outbidding other people and taking those employees and stealing our information. And when that happens, it puts walls up from giving two companies information and trying to protect yourself against that. It forces you to put walls up. It doesn't necessarily lead itself to working out, but still, when you're going to put in a vigilant effort where we can, I can't talk like him. He goes on to say, Hendrick and Gibbs, who between them run like the series points leader and 5-time Cup champion Jimmy Johnsons, they got the Jeff Gordons, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlins, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s, lure away Ford team employees with big offers. Gibbs stole Roush Aero directing and took all the information, says Keselowski, and Hendrick took 3 employees of our chase-winning teams last year. So he's basically accusing Hendrick and Joe Gibbs of poaching.
Welcome to the real world, Brad.
Oh.
Guess what? When if you want to be a championship team, you have to get championship people. It's no different. Businesses will take people from other businesses. You can consider it poaching. You can do whatever. But I tell you what, those people that got the job offers, they're not complaining.
Yeah.
They're putting food on their table. It's their job. It's what they're good at. Maybe, Brad, you should just shut your trap a little bit.
Joe Gibbs made a comment, says, we're surprised to read the recent comments and accusations made by Brad Keselowski. Clearly, those comments are misguided and irresponsible. Brad's candor is well documented, but he would do well to only speak on subjects of which he is properly informed. Obviously, NASCAR is a very competitive environment, and we take our hiring process seriously at Joe Gibbs Racing. The individuals he referred to in his comments was working outside of the sport of NASCAR at the time we hired them. We have a great deal of respect and relationship with Roger, speaking of Roger Penske. We look forward to competing with Brad on the racetrack, but hope that he will use better judgment in the future before making such misinformed claims and accusations. It doesn't get any better when Hendrick speaks up and says the comments Brad reportedly made were misinformed. The truth is that we hired one tire changer who was a backup for Penske and whose contract was up. We also brought over one mechanic from their nationwide program, and when Penske's engine shop was closing, we added a few of those people. What Brad left out is that the organization also hired one of our tire changers. All of this was above board and a part of doing business in a competitive environment. I take no issue with any of it, and I expect Roger, speaking of Roger Penske, would say the same. Brad misrepresented the facts and spends a lot of time making insinuations and accusations about other teams when he should be focused on his own program and competing at a high level. I hope he figures that out and begins to represent himself and the sport with a little more class. I gotta tell you, for official statements, I am shocked because they didn't pull any punches.
Do you know what I have the mental image of?
And oh, by the way, Roger Penske just basically came out and said the same thing. Joe Gibbs and Hendrick were absolutely right. Brad needs to worry about driving. I will worry about the employee side of it.
Yeah.
He is misinformed and does not understand the situation.
Seeing how Brad won that championship last year, do you think his britches have gotten a little too big for him? He thinks he's bigger than what he...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think he is struggling this year, and he's not understanding why. His 3 previous years in Cup, it was a climb, and it was a climb, and it was a climb to a championship. Now he's having a decline for the first time in his Cup career, and he's not handling it well. And I honestly, we've gone on the record saying this time and time again. Andrew said it. You've said it. I've certainly said it. I don't think Brad's that good. I don't think he's a championship caliber driver. I think he was the benefactor of a brilliant crew chief. Now, a lot of people say the same thing about Jimmy Johnson, and I completely disagree because if you actually pay attention and watch, it wasn't Chad Knaus that drove that car up through the field 3-4 times at Michigan last weekend. It was Jimmy Johnson hauling the mail. It was Chad that set that car up correctly. I think Jimmy's a far better driver than anybody gives him credit for. I don't have the same opinion of Brad Keselowski.
I agree with you that Jimmy has a lot of potential as a driver, and he's one of the best, if not the best. I mean, he is a 5-time national champion. But Brad Keselowski, you still have to respect the fact that he is a national champion in NASCAR. Is he as good without Paul Wolf? No. Wolf does carry Brad, but it's a team.
Yeah.
Your team carries you. You fail as a team, you win as a team. But with that being said, Brad, you got one championship. We're in a sport nowadays where Jeff Gordon, multi-champ, Tony Stewart, multi-champ, Jimmy Johnson, multi-champ. If Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon came out with something like that, I think I'm not saying that what they would say would be right, but people would be more out to listen versus Brad, shut up.
I don't think they would ever say anything like that.
No, they're a lot.
They have enough brain cells to say.
They're more tactful about it.
And they do their research a little bit before they decide to go and make statements like that. I think Brad likes the attention. You'd mentioned that you have to respect Brad for winning a championship. I agree the statement on the broad, but the guy keeps making stuff like this and making comments.
It's chipping away his respect.
I don't have to respect the guy at all. Let's talk about Holy Renovation, Batman. Earlier in the week, Daytona International Speedway announced they're going to be doing a $400 million renovation to the entrance of the World Center of Racing. It's an ambitious 2.5-year project that will do a complete facelift to the entrance to Daytona International Speedway. And if you want to see a video, you can go over to our Facebook page, or you can go to DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com, click on renovation plans, and there's a short video you can watch. And it's pretty cool. I'm really excited about that.
I just got 2 words to say about this. Cha-ching.
Yeah. Holy cow. And they're doing it all out of their pocket. They tried to get the local government to help fund it. You know, like you see football teams and baseball teams, they go up to the city council and they cry a little bit, and the city forks up the money. They got turned down, so Daytona said, you know what? We don't need your help. We're going to go ahead and pour hundreds of millions of dollars into your community anyways, and we're going to do these renovations even without your help. So good little thing there for Daytona International Speedway to do some upgrades. I hate to end on a sad note, but it is a somber note, and we haven't had the opportunity to talk much about the passing of Jason Leffler. If you haven't heard some of the conversations over the last week, obviously, Jason passed away. We did a little bit of a thing before the show to kind of explain a little bit. He did lose his life, and unfortunately we weren't able to pay him the proper respect we wanted to because we had already finished recording the show before his accident. But if you want to help out in any way possible, and this is the thing I love the most about this community, you can go to CaseyCaneRacing.com. CaseyCane.com. Casey is selling hats that are left turn hats, which is Jason's nickname, LEFTURN hats. And all of the proceeds are going to go towards Jason's 5-year-old son, Charlie Dean. It's a discretionary trust fund that will help Charlie grow up in the making sure that he doesn't have a rough life now that he's got to deal without having a father. I also wanted to bring up the point that there's been quite a bit of criticism for these local dirt tracks, and I know you take offense to that, and I take offense to that. We're friends with a lot of dirt track owners, and I just want to remind everybody, if you would like to go back to the interview, go to our YouTube page, or you can search Dean Sicking. He's the guy who created the Safer Barriers, and we asked him last February 26th of 2012, our very first interview when I joined the show, should dirt tracks be implementing safer barriers? And Dean's exact words, not exact words, but his quoted words were no. Safer barriers that are designed for NASCAR are too rigid for a short track, for a dirt track, because these things are built for high speeds in more rigid frames. It would do no good for this racetrack in New Jersey to have had safer barriers. It would have made the same thing. Not to mention the fact that if they do develop a safer barrier that would be for dirt tracks, it would be ungodly expensive, and no one would be able to afford to go dirt track racing if they were required to have a safer barrier. I mean, the thing is also is that those walls are very deceiving. When they hit them at the G-forces, they bow. And you look at it, and I was shocked to find out through that conversation with Dean Sicking that the bars that you see, I think it's 5 bars that are stacked together, those are steel, full steel bars. It's not some special energy absorbing. It's a steel bar. It is like hitting a concrete wall. And Dean Sicking said that if you were to hit these walls at the speeds that you go at dirt tracks, it would be like hitting a concrete wall. It would do absolutely no good.
We already have a concrete wall, so what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? So I guess my point in that whole thing is this is an incredibly tragic situation. And I hate if I sound callous, but occasionally we get reminded of our mortality. And last, 2 Wednesdays ago, we were reminded of that with another passing of a great person. So if you want to contribute to the Jason Leffler Foundation, which is it's called the Charlie Dean Discretionary Trust, Casey Cane is selling hats. All the proceeds will go towards Charlie's financial well-being after the loss of his father. And there's a ton of trust funds you can set up. Just do a little bit of a search online. We'll be right back in turn 3. And then turn 4, we'll get back on the phone with Jeff Striegel and we'll talk Sonoma. This is The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
For 50 years, Eagle Raceway has been pushing the limits of dirt track racing. Saturday nights, come see the Midwest Best Battle at the fastest third-mile track. Gates open at 5:30 for IMCA Modifieds, Sport Compacts, Hobby Stocks, Sport Mods, and Race Saver Sprint Cars. Eagle kicks their season off on April 19th with the Icebreaker Challenge, featuring the debut of the Race Saver Sprint Cars. Located just 10 minutes east of Lincoln on Highway 34 and online at eagleraceway.com.
If you love rings and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Time to grab another tear-off and make your move. We're headed into turn 3 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Turn 3, presented by Kaziski Auto Parts, 51st and I Street in Omaha, 731-4592. Kaziski Auto Parts, where you go to get affordable parts with a full warranty availability, and you make sure you get the right part the first time.
You know who doesn't need those parts?
Who's that?
On the phone, the 3L driver, Clint Llewellyn. Yeah, he wins features.
There we go.
Yeah,
Clint,
so his car doesn't break down.
Clint, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
We are, we're talking racing, so you really can't get any better than that.
No.
Maybe a little bit better if we were actually watching racing, but this is the next best thing. Clint, talk a little bit about your start in dirt track. What got you started, and where did you start?
Yeah, believe it or not, my mom's actually the culprit for my racing experience. I started probably 7 years ago or 8 years ago, maybe. I jumped into a front-wheel drive and figure eights. My mom had raced the open class car for many, many years in the powder puff and got into a bad accident and kind of hung it up. And my dad was the president at the fairgrounds, and so we started this front-wheel drive class, and I jumped into that. And we went out and ran 2 years, got 2 track championships there, and I guess that's kind of what started it. I could then kind of quickly got bored with that and jumped into a stock car, still in figure eights, and then went to an open car for a little bit. And then I guess just kind of got tired of getting tore up and decided to move to circle track.
So your mom was a figure eight driver?
Yep, that's correct.
Does she ever talk a little bit of trash? Because that takes, how do I want to say it? It takes a little manhood to do that figure eight stuff.
Yeah, 10-4. Yeah, she actually, she, believe it or not, she did really well. So just too bad an accident kind of ended that deal for her. But she loves to go to the races with us, so.
I would think that she's got to be a driving force in the garage at the track. I mean, is she right there by your side to help? Because I believe even your brother Austin, he drives in the hobby stock. So she's got, like I said, she's got to be a driving force for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have 2 brothers. I'm the middle child, so my little brother runs the hobby stock, and that's actually where we both started. I started out my first year in a hobby stock, and then I ran a full season by myself, the only one racing. And then my little brother decided to jump into a hobby stock the second year with us in circle track, and he ran pretty well. And then I jumped up to a sport mod my 3rd year. Then the 4th year, my older brother joined the clan and jumped into a sport mod straight away. And I think he's been racing sport mods now for 3 years, if I believe right. And my little brother's been there for 5 years in circle track and the hobby stock.
With 3 or 4 of you brothers racing, does that help you at times? Does that hurt you at times? I mean, can you feed? Can you give each other a lot of info off that? I mean, how does that work out?
It definitely has more ups than downs for sure. Just having spare parts around, if I break bend a spindle or something, my brother's got one right there in the trailer. We have lots of spare parts as far as that goes. So, but also not only that, but if we can't bring any pit crew to the track with us for one night, at least we got somebody there to help us, along with mom and dad being there, and then my older brother and I suppose benefit off each other a little bit more than my little brother since he's in a hobby. But, Ty and I, we talk, quite a bit about strategy and, setups, what we're going to do, how we think the track's going to, turn out or what's going to happen there. So I'd say definitely more benefits than non-benefits, but, obviously, my older brother and I do race against each other too. So, there's times that there's a few little conflicts here and there, but it never gets beyond the trailer and gets home. So, it is what it is, and we have a ton of fun doing it.
Being the driver of the 3L here, you race over at Stewart International Speedway. I know you've made some runs down to Beatrice Speedway in Beatrice, Nebraska, and over there to Marshalltown. I do know this year you're sitting 10th in our Joe's Karting Dirt Track Series. At Stewart alone, you've got, I believe, 2 or 3 second-place finishes and a win this last Sunday. What kind of changes did you make in the off-season to really propel your success this year?
Yeah, definitely got to give all my props, or most of my props to Razor Chassis. I got a new car from them, and the thing has been phenomenal. And definitely a huge shout-out to Luke Waniger, too, that runs the A-Mods. He's really kind of helped me get off on the right foot and then kind of stepped away a little bit here at the end and just kind of let me do my own thing to see if I could figure it out on my own. That's probably definitely my biggest, deal in the off season. We did get the car real early in the winter, so we got tons and tons of time to, look it over, make sure everything was perfect before we went to the track. Not wait until 2 weeks before Beatrice to throw something together and go out there. And I can't tell you how many times we nut and bolted that car and scaled it 4 or 5 different times just to get it where we wanted it. And that's definitely the off-season work, I think, that's paid off.
Clint, I'm looking over some information about you, and I'm curious if you could talk to me about how great was it to win the #1 Diva at Boone Speedway?
I knew that.
I got to tell you, I'm looking at this picture, and you're looking pretty good.
Yeah. The first annual Diva Dash at Boone Speedway. That was an interesting one. I would say that was a type of peer pressure type of event. My entire crew and my other brothers, they would definitely not do that. And my mom knows, being the middle child here, she could pretty much force me into doing anything. And so we gave it a shot. Well, we went out there, and I figured, well, we got high heels on, we might as well win this thing. So we went out and they dropped the flag or whatever, and I suppose we went probably 50 yards or so, and it's pretty hard running on a muddy track with high heels, and we made it happen. So.
Was it dry slick? Was it tacky?
No, well, it was Boone Speedway, so it definitely wasn't dry slick.
Now, did your high heels have the sealed stilettos on them, or did you use aftermarket stilettos?
No, they definitely did not.
Those are some straight up right out of Wizard of the Oz kind of high heels. I mean, those are some serious Dorothy heels you got on there. Did you have to go and buy those, or did they provide them?
Oh, no, they provided them for us. They provided them, so we got them sitting right there next to our trophy cabinet, so you better believe it.
All right.
You did the Diva Dash, and a lot of drivers around the nation, even at the local tracks here, they'll do, the Diva Dash, the bicycle races, the fire hose rodeo. But in your opinion, do you find that actually brings a lot of attention to you and the driver, where you get to see the possible PR and marketing behind doing stuff like that?
Yeah, honestly, I think the coolest part about that whole thing, and why it didn't really bother me more or less than anything, is that we did it right in front of the grandstands over there. I have, 3 young nephews that love racing, 1, 3, and 4, and they just can't even wait to go to the races to see all the cars and look at the people. And especially more or less for the kids, they don't really know faces to cars. And, when their parents are pointing them out saying, this is which driver drives this car, I think that was probably the coolest thing about that whole deal over there. So really enjoyed it.
On the phone, we have the Clint Llewellyn, driver of the 3L Sport Mod out of Stuart, Iowa. Clint, here in the closing moments, just kind of briefly tell us what's your plans for this year, and then possibly, I'm sitting here on Facebook and I'm looking at a picture of you and Joe Gibbs. Is there something you kind of want to tell the world?
Yeah, I got that picture taken with us. Our distant cousin races motocross, Justin Brayton, so we got to, he gave us some free tickets, and we got to go down to Indianapolis and watch him down there, and got to meet Joe Gibbs, so that was pretty cool. I guess as far as my plans go, for this year and everything, definitely going to stick out the season where we're at. Once we get all these crops in the ground, it'd be a different story. We might get to run a few more nights here, but I guess everybody's kind of banging on my back door saying go A-Mod, but I'm not sure yet, I guess. Not sure quite what I want to do there. Kind of like to be good at what I do before I go somewhere else. So I definitely want to thank every single person who sponsors my race car this year. Definitely my mom and my dad for everything they do day in and day out. My older brother Ty, my little brother Austin for all their help. Luke Tilgis, Eric Menson, just everybody. Luke Laniger, Spencer Clockey, everybody that comes to the races with us and helps us out. I just can't thank everybody enough for everything they do. So that comes from Llewellyn Racing in general, not just myself. So. All
right, Clint Llewellyn, driver of the 3L. Clint, how do people follow you?
Oh, they definitely follow my wife on, she runs Llewellyn Racing. You can go to Abby's channel on YouTube. She puts up every one of the videos from every night of racing for us, and I can't tell you how many people watch those videos. The views are unreal on those. So even people, from out there in Nebraska that, want to come up and try a few races sometime, and not a better place to go to check it out than right there, get out there and check them out.
All right, Clint, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great rest of the season, and we appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Again, that's Clinton Llewellyn, driver of the 3L Sport Mod out of, what you said?
Stuart, Iowa.
Stuart, Iowa is where he
Weekly
races.
track, yep.
So, good guy there, and I had to give him crap about that Diva Dash.
That was awesome. I didn't even see that coming. I think he almost took his breath away because he almost had like a little pause like, yeah, I knew that was coming up.
Yeah. So you can catch him, Clint Llewellyn Racing on Facebook. There's also a YouTube page with plenty of videos. You can see him race. But a good guy there. We'll be around in turn 4. We're going to talk with Jeff Striegel about Sonoma. We'll be right back. It's the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This week's Legend of Tomorrow on the Front Stretch is Kenny Champ, a senior at Clarinda High School. Kenny got his start by watching family friend Jeremy Otten race hobby stocks at Adams County Speedway. And with Jeremy's help, Kenny contacted the Krasiskis about racing at Little Sunset. And before he knew it, Kenny and his dad were headed to Omaha to buy a cage cart. Wins came fast and often in the Junior 1 class, so last year, Kenny bought his first hobby stock and raced at Adams County Speedway. Over the offseason, Kenny became friends with Shannon Anderson, who's no stranger to IMCA Hobby Stock Championships. Shannon helped Kenny find a chassis, set it up, scale it, and gave him the tools he needed for success. So far, it's paying off, with 6 wins already this season. Kenny says he couldn't race 3 times a week and have the success without the outstanding love and support he gets from his parents. Without them, he couldn't do any of this. You can catch this week's Legend of Tomorrow Fridays at Beatrice Speedway, Saturdays at I-35 Speedway, and Sundays at Stewart Speedway. He's Kenny Champ, this week's Legend of Tomorrow on the Front Stretch.
The Silver Dollar Nationals are returning to I-80 Speedway on July 18th, 19th, and 20th. Don't miss the nation's top USMTS, MLRA, and Lucas Oil dirt late model racers as they compete at Nebraska's fastest track. Come watch the nation's best dirt track racers compete for a $27,000 to win payout. Ticket prices and packages at 402-342-3453. The 3rd annual Silver Dollar Nationals at I-80 Speedway, July 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Get ready for the victory lap as we make our way into Turn 4 on the Front Stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to Turn 4. Just about ready to wrap it up on the Front Stretch. Joining us back on the phone to talk about Sonoma today is Jeff Striegel of the Motor Racing Network. And Jeff, you did the call yesterday at Road America. Talk a little bit about trying to do a call for a road course. Obviously, there's a massive track, lots of turns. You need to employ a small army to cover it all. How do you guys manage to do that so seamlessly?
That's a great question. We get asked that a lot. I think we had 9 turn announcers that were working, and I love my spot. I'm a turn announcer when we go to Road America. And I'm hanging on a bridge. It's the only place at all where I'm actually over top of the racetrack, and they go right underneath me, and it's a lot of fun. But to answer your question, you just have to work together, and we've all worked together, whether it's our friends over at Performance Racing Network getting ready to do the race today, or whether it's a Motor Racing Network. You just you're hanging on what everybody's saying, and when you go to a place like Road America, it's like watching a race in a park. I mean, it's just so much fun. I wish we could do it more often.
Jeff, let's talk about Sonoma today. There's a couple of guys that come to mind that are just absolutely scary there. Marcus Ambrose is getting really good at Sonoma. Kurt Busch obviously has probably, I think, the best record for all the active drivers. Jeff Gordon's always good at road courses. Who do you think is going to come up through the field that we may not be expecting today?
Well, wasn't it Clint Boyer that won there a couple years ago? Which kind of surprised everybody. I could be wrong on that. It's off the top of my head, but
yep, you're right.
It seemed to me that Clint won it. And you talk about shock in the world. I don't think of Clint Boyer as being, a road racing ace, but you better have your game together when you go left and right. You already hit one of them. Marcus Ambrose has to win, and the other one is Juan Pablo Montoya. has to win. Let me tell you why as quickly as I can. You've got a point championship that's going to come right down to 2 wild cards. The only way you're going to get a wild card and get in the championship is to finish in the top 20, 11 through 20, and have a win. Right now, 11 through 20, there's not a single driver in that group that has a win, meaning you could be 20th in points, Marcus Ambrose, get a win at Sonoma, and make the chase for the championship. They know that. Marcus Ambrose isn't going to win anywhere else except for there or Watkins Glen. He knows it's down to 2 races for him to get into the championship. Montoya, pretty much the same way, although they are better on ovals than I think what Ambrose is. But you talk about 2 guys that are locked, loaded, and ready to do whatever it takes to get a win. It's Montoya and Ambrose, because if they can pull it off here, they got a chance to make the chase for the championship.
How do they set these cars up? I mean, obviously we set them up for ovals to where they tow a little bit. They got camber. How do you set these things up for turning left and right? Sharp turns, dull turns, hard braking. It's got to be incredibly difficult.
When you look at the way the cars are set up to turn left, essentially to keep it on the 101, and not get all in depth on it, you're going to do the same thing with that front end in order to try to make the car turn right. The thing that we all want to remember, let's use Jack Roush as an example. What's Jack's background? Sports cars. He's been sports car racing for years. The people that have been involved with Jack have been sports car racing for years. SCCA Trans Am. Roger Penske, he knows road racing. These teams today, Chip Ganassi, he knows road racing in the Grand Am Series. So when you have to do this, you may step outside your normal box of guys that work to make your cars go left around Michigan International Speedway and call upon their expertise and say, here's 2 or 3 or 4 race cars. I need sports cars with a stock car body on it. And so that's how they do that. That's why they're as good as they are. You used to go back in the old days, and it was the old sports car ringers that would come in and win the race. They knew how to set up a race car. They knew how to drive a race course, and they would dominate. Not anymore. The guys like Jeff Gordon, Clint Boyer, Jimmy Johnson are every bit as capable as Ambrose and Montoya to a degree of getting around there, and those cars are prepared as good as you possibly can hope for. That's going to be why we have a good race this afternoon.
I'm very excited about it. Can't wait to hear it. MRN yesterday. If you missed it, I know you missed an amazing broadcast for Road America. When are you guys back broadcasting the races?
We will be, I've got a week off the 27th because PRN will be in Kentucky. So believe it or not, season is now halfway over when I get back on the air, and that will be down in Daytona Beach under the lights for the Coke Zero 400.
You kind of brought me down a little bit there, Jeff. Halfway over already?
It seems like you just started a month ago.
Well, that's what it feels like to me, too, because I'm still trying to figure out how it became, the middle of June, because it does seem like it wasn't that long ago, and we were calling the Daytona 500. But, yeah, we always refer to that as the unofficial start of the second half of the season when we get back to Daytona, and that's just a couple weeks away.
Well, we can't wait to talk to you again. Jeff Striegel of the Motor Racing Network. MotorRacingNetwork.com, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you so much for your time, Jeff. MotorRacingNetwork.com. That's where you can hear Jeff Striegel. Thanks so much, Jeff. Have a good weekend and have a great week.
All right, Dan. Buddy, you guys have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And that was Jeff Striegel, the Motor Racing Network. Really excited to have him on the show. I think he's going to be a great asset.
Yeah.
Just because the toughest thing is that as much as we stare at the information, we can't give you that firsthand experience. We can't give you that conversations with the drivers, with the teams, with the manufacturers. Jeff can bring that for us, so I think he's going to be a big asset and a big addition to the show. Like he talked about, Sonoma's going on this afternoon. It's going to be the Save Mart, the Toyota Save Mart 350. The TV broadcast on TNT. PRN's going to have it today. The green flag's going to be at 2 p.m. You can catch all of the action at Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs. Quaker Steak and Lube, 23rd Ave in Council Bluffs. In that same area as Joe's Karting, as AMC Theaters, as Mid-America Center Bass Pro Shop. You can't miss it. Get to Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. I've got my new food there, the char-grilled salmon. Dude, you got to try this. It is absolutely fantastic. Closing thoughts. You got anything on the race today? What do you think?
When you think of road course, you do think of Juan Pablo Montoya. You do think of the Marcus Ambrose, but Jeff brought up a good point. I wouldn't have thought Clint Boyer.
You really wouldn't have, but
now
he does
Busch
do
brothers,
very well.
The Busch brothers, they actually either co-own or help run them. I believe they co-own an indoor kart racing facility. So right there, knowing that, I know that they're going to be deadly. And if I had to take one of the two Busch brothers, I'm taking Kurt Busch all day. In fact, that's what I'm taking my Pick'ems contest.
Well, we've been holding off to actually about an hour before the race. And if we hadn't have done that, I'd have been in deep trouble because I wanted to take Ryan Newman early in the Sunday, but I got home and I got to thinking about it, and I said, no, I want Casey Kane. And then I thought, you know what? I can't take Casey Kane because I already picked him earlier in the year. I'm going to go Greg Biffle. And listen, as much as I want to sit here and say I'm a genius, I picked Greg Biffle only because Casey Kane, I'd already picked him.
I'm going to tell you right now, you were a genius because I had Casey Kane, then I went to Busch, then I went back to Kane, then I went back to Busch. And I was kind of following your guidance, and you're like, well, Kurt Busch is poised for a win. He's running really good, top fives. I was like, all right.
He's on the uptick.
And then he blows a tire. I was like, are you kidding me? And here's Casey Kane leading the race. And then I was like, I was wondering if you were laughing when he hit the wall. And I was
I did. But Kurt didn't blow a tire. Kurt just got a little too high out of the groove and spun it around and tagged the wall. But yeah, I trust me, I felt horrible until I'm listening to the MRN broadcast as I'm going back home to spend time with some family on Father's Day, and all of a sudden I hear, hard into the wall, Casey Kane blew a tire, and I'm like, oh, thank God. Because you're cussing me out. I mean, there was some colorful language coming across the text messages up until Kane hit the wall, but yeah. Well,
that's why I said that one last one where I was like, oh, he wasn't that good anyways.
you go, I knew Busch should be better anyways. Still not a good day for you, and the Pick'ems contest really mixed it up. I mean, it's gotten close all of a sudden. I've gone from being, I think at one point in time I was 129 points behind you.
Yeah, you were way back there.
I'm now 33 points behind you, and Andrew is just 6 points behind you. So your lead is dwindling considerably, and we're going to wait until the rule is green flag. Soon as the green flag waves, picks are locked. So everybody texts me. I'll post them up on Facebook of who took who, and hopefully.
Well, here's the deal. I think it should be 1 hour before the green flag, because if you wait right until green flag and you got 20 people trying to text you, it's going to be hard to facilitate.
But I don't. I only have 2. This is just for you and I. We'll create some stiffer rules when we do it for the fans next year.
Okay.
That's the front stretch, buddy. Where are you going to be at Friday night, Saturday night, pending weather?
Yeah. Crawford County Speedway Friday nights, and Saturday nights, Eagle Raceway.
Are they going to have you back?
Yeah. You know what?
If you're wondering what I mean by that.
All I'm going to tell you is if you seen what I did last night, we'll see.
If you're wondering what we're talking about, get over to the Slingin' Dirt. It's on our YouTube page. Just go to Joe's Karting. It's a YouTube page. And check out the Slingin' Dirt. And we talked about what happened with Buddy Ray / Kurt Busch / Kyle Busch /
multiple personality disorder
Montoya / man with an anger issue /
Tony Stewart. Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us. 2 o'clock today. Get to Quaker Steak and Lube and get to the Toyota Save Mart 350. We're going to be at Sonoma. It's going to be a great race. I love these road course races. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
In 1999, Wade Cross decided he was tired of overpaying for shocks, so he created FX Shocks. Now FX suspension customers reach across the United States with countless wins and championships, including national champion in 3 major IMCA classes, plus Super Nationals champions in all 4 of the Saturday night's main events. Get your FX Shocks today. One-on-one consultation is waiting for you at 308-383-9609.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.